England.
We've conquered all of Europe. We're never gonna stop. From Palestine to Turkey, we've won the fucking lot. But Paisley and the Shankly, the fields of our field goal. We are unsupported, and we come from Liverpool.
G'day everybody, welcome to the Training Ground, another installment of the Training Ground. I'm here as always, joined by Pete. How you going, Pete?
I've missed you, George.
You've missed me. I've been on for a little bit. I've been a little bit busy, but the other lads at the Red Sea Down Under have been carrying the weight, carrying the slack. So thank you all for doing that, and thank you for the loyal viewers, subscribers, listeners, whatever you may be, for tuning in over the last week or so. It's been really good, Pete, for Liverpool. I think something that epitomizes Liverpool at the moment is, I think, a status or a way of being that Jurgen Klopp loves, which is being the underdog kind of thing. I think we're quietly just going about our business, which is the best way. I think it didn't really suit us for everybody to be staring at us and hope, being scared and blah, blah, blah.
No, it's almost like we're in that spotlight, after winning the league, and it was like, nah, we don't want it. We don't like it. We're just going to get everyone injured next year.
So what you're saying, Pete, is it was planned. It was planned. This is like a long-term reform. We planned that whole season.
Van Dijk was never injured. That's the truth.
That's the truth. He was never injured. Neither was Matip.
Reece Williams and Nat Phillips was a dare that Jurgen Klopp lost.
It was all about value. It was all about value.
Yeah.
They just wanted to, because they were getting too low in the transfer market, and so they needed to raise the value of Phillips and Reece Williams.
That's what it is. And this whole Ox is a false nine. It's all there. We know exactly what we're doing. We know exactly what we're doing to win the league this year. That's it.
They were playing like not spin the bottle. What's the other one? King's Cup, where it's like
Truth
the
or
rule.
dare?
You put your fingers on like the table and stuff, and like, you have to drink if you say a swear word. And like one of them's like, you have to play Ox at number 9, and Klopp's like, oh, okay, I have to play him number 9 now.
I lost. Damn it.
That is the situation. But for those of you who aren't aware of how the Training Ground works, it's usually a preview show. So this is a Crystal Palace preview. It's basically like a, how do we beat Crystal Palace? What can they throw at us, and what do we throw back at them? How do Liverpool win this weekend is basically the theme of this show. We dive into some stats. We look at some stats. We look at some screenshots, and then we bring out the tactics board and have a look at how Liverpool can use their weapons and then blunten the weapons of the other team. So as you can see down the bottom, the Training Ground is a pre-recorded show. So apologies if we do not answer you live in the moment, as Jurgen Klopp usually says, because, we're in the past. And I will reserve all of my Back to the Future jokes, as always, to another time, because I make too many of them. But without further ado, I thought we would go through some screenshots, Pete. We usually look at stats, but we're going to do a little bit more dynamic this way. What we're going to do is we're going to have a look at some screenshots, and then if any stats apply to them, we will point them out. So this is the first screenshot from Crystal Palace versus Tottenham. So we want to look at not only historically how Crystal Palace have been going this season, because they've struggled a bit, but also how they did in their last game. I mean, gives us a good indicator of how they're going to perform against the top side, because they did crush Tottenham Hotspur. Disclaimer, Tottenham went down to 10 men, but still, I mean, look at what Chelsea did against us. And the 10 men was a factor, and they managed to defend and make a good name for themselves. Tottenham just completely fell apart.
Yeah, look, I watched this game. And I actually thought Crystal Palace were good, as bad as Tottenham were. So it's an odd one, but I'm happy that they won this game, George. I'm happy that they won this game, because if they didn't win this game, I was thinking, God, if they don't beat Tottenham, you got Tottenham, Liverpool back to back. They're going to probably just come and be ultra defensive, super safe, and try to get a point, because they're in a bit of a mess, because they lost to Chelsea, they drew with West Ham. They weren't really. That was their first win of the season. But then they won, and I was like, oh, thank God, because they got that big win against a bigger side, a top 6 kind of side. So that was good. And they did it playing football. They didn't do it counter-attacking. They didn't do it, some form of like safe system. It was actually, I think what we saw was Patrick Vieira trying to implement his philosophy and his style on his side. And what we did see was a 4-3-3. We saw a lot of patient possession in build-up. They wanted to build up and create their own attacks through football, not so much trying to, like I said, counter-attacks or just like a cross and hope or anything like that. So it was actually interesting. And I think this player that we're touching on now, Gallagher, I think is on loan from Chelsea. He was exceptional. And I actually think he's a really good player because watching him in that game is kind of like that midfielder that we kind of hope, those kind of runs that we see here that he did so often in that game was kind of what we hope to see Naby Keita do a bit more often, but he doesn't. Mm-hmm. Yet we see Curtis Jones make these sort of runs, and it's something that is quite dangerous because he tends to make these runs either in between the two centre backs or in between the fullback and centre back. So the way Crystal Palace like to play, which we'll show in a couple of screenshots time, is with a full width with Zaha and Awu on either side, try to stretch the field, trying to engage our fullbacks, and then you have someone like Gallagher running in between those two pockets that created.
Well, we saw this against AC Milan. I think it's this kind of run. I'm not sure. I need to go back to to who scored the goals for Milan. I don't know any of the Milan players these days. I think it's I took special notice of a substitute of Maldini coming on, going, is he related? And yes, he was Maldini's son. But it looked like that there were runs that seemed to bamboozle our centre backs. It seemed to bamboozle Matip and Gomez. And it's funny, a lot of commentators were actually saying that Gomez was at fault. I thought Matip was kind of all at sea for that first goal. So it feels like this third man run is something we should be really, really worried about, especially because Crystal Palace, they played the 4-3-3. But I've also noticed that, you say this in defense, it's a 4-1-4-1. So essentially the 4-5-1, which a lot of 4-3-3s turn into, but Liverpool doesn't. Liverpool is a 4-3-3 in defense and in attack. We've seen Salah occasionally come back and Mane on the other side, actually. And you notice this, that sometimes we are all behind the ball, but that's once we settle into it. We don't rush to get into that position. Whereas Crystal Palace, as we will see in other screenshots, they rush to get into that position. So, that third man run from that midfield, it hurt us against Milan. We have to be careful against Crystal Palace, it seems.
Yeah, it was Brahim Diaz who created a lot of trouble in terms of making those late runs in behind the.
He was a midfielder, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah. And what you can see, if you have a look, Benteke attracts attention from centre backs. So I don't know why there are three Tottenham players so close to him, but that's what he brings. Even though he's a bit of a potato, but he does attract attention because of his physical structure and his strengths, which is holding up play or the target man kind of role. You know what I mean? So because of sorry, George, keep going.
No, I was just going to say it makes it even more interesting, the prospect of whether Ibrahimovic played, whether that third man run would have hurt us even more against Milan, but it hurt us twice, and it was like a double knock. It was like two punches to the head, so it already hurt us. But yeah.
Yeah, so this is where I criticised our midfield actually against AC Milan for not tracking runners. I didn't blame Matip or Gomez. I criticised the midfield completely because when a midfielder makes a run beyond you, that's your player running past you. Sorry, that's your responsibility. It's not Gomez's responsibility. It's your responsibility. He's your player. So I think with Van Dijk obviously coming back this week, I'm not really worried about Benteke at all. I think he'll eat him alive. It's more so what our midfielders do to stop this from happening.
Yeah, and again, looking at the Burnley game when we played them, as I go to the next screenshot, I noticed there was that. I mean, it wasn't so much a third man run, Pete, but it was our midfielders not tracking. So we that needs to smarten up. I think it's in the space between Van Dijk and Robertson on the edge of the box. I'm not sure if you can actually get your. Is it too early to bring out the tactics board? Is it too early?
Well, it's never too early, George. I just got to make sure I'm sharing my screen so you can see it.
Yeah. Share your screen. But I mean, as we're doing all of this, I'll explain what I mean. It's
I've
just.
done it. Yeah.
So we'll bring it up here. Yeah. So the tactics board is coming onto the screen now. There's just that little area, if you can see there, if Pete, you can just put the ball between Van Dijk and Robertson. It's just on the edge of the box there, especially when we're in defense. So if our whole defensive line is kind of a little bit deeper. I just find that area there, we're missing a midfielder there, and I'm not sure. We haven't played much of Thiago there, so. And also against Milan, I'm not sure Thiago is playing on the. He was playing on the right or the left. He was playing. He comes on, doesn't he?
He came on and played left, but it was Naby Keita playing left.
Yeah, so that space just there where the ball is, that's where a midfielder isn't tracking, and that's where I think we're missing a bit of Gini Wijnaldum. That's where we would see Wijnaldum kind of lung busting, coming back into that little area there, and just covering that space. And on the right-hand side is when we conceded against AC Milan. That's when it's Jordan Henderson, who, if he was playing on the right there, that maybe didn't do that tracking. Would you have said it was Jordan Henderson that didn't do it?
Well, they try to target that spacing behind Trent, and majority of the time that's Henderson's kind of sweeping role, where he does kind of clean up, the spaces left by Trent. And I think that Matip maybe should have held his position to defend your previous comment. He should have held his position. Instead, he ran across to follow the player and kind of left the space there. But it's something that I think, we do have to get better at tracking our midfield runners, because it's something that we've been quite poor at, not for some time, but it's one of our weaknesses anyway.
And it's kind of this little thing here, when Robertson finds himself over here, and it's just the ball ends up into this little area there, and it's probably a midfielder, and we find ourselves in that situation. And Van Dijk is kind of like, maybe Ayu's come in, and this is kind of, and this probably players come over there. Sorry to muck up your board there, but that's kind of the area that our midfielder's not covering. And Van Dijk now has to kind of do two things. He has to block the shot, watch that runner, and also kind of cover Benteke in the middle. That's just the thing. It's not a big deal, but that's just something, especially when you brought that up, that just reminded me of Burnley. We conceded a few early chances against Burnley, I remember.
Well, it's interesting because you say Van Dijk has, two things to do, but Fabinho normally has three things to do. So in Klopp's comment, like how Klopp says, sorry, what do you say? When we're organised, Fabinho is exceptional. It's when we're not organised. But I don't know. For me, I kind of hear that comment. I'm like, well, were you saying that it's Fabinho's reason why we're not organised, or is it just a team thing? I'm not too sure, because Fabinho can't tackle six players at once. So
you know what I think it's more? I think it's more of a comment of, if everyone's doing their job, then Fabinho, it's kind of like players who are better in better teams. And then when they play with worse players, they not that Fabinho can't perform with worse players, but he's just so good when everyone's good, because he can kind of perform at his optimum. But if everyone else is not really picking up the slack, he's got a very specialist role. So I don't know. That's maybe reading into it. Yeah, that's what I would. That's what I would say. But we going away from the third man run now, I think that's something we have to be really careful of, especially because we're going to be pushing forward and they're going to be countering against us. So I'm really worried about that. As we go to the next screenshot here, Pete, it's our transition to defense numbers behind the ball. You're saying here.
Yeah, so that's something that they've actually one of their strengths that they've under Patrick Vieira is that they not so much transition to attack, because one of their other strengths, or the way he likes to play, is that he loves to retain possession and try to create opportunities. So from transition to attack is not their strength, but one of their other strengths are transition to defense. And I think that's because they have a good engine in midfield. With, I think it's Kouyaté, MacArthur, and Gallagher, the three kind of like, machine kind of runners. Mm-hmm. And that's just why they're quite good in transitioning to defense. But yeah, I think that's something that he's been working on. And we saw clearly there's another picture, I believe, that's something quite similar, where you're seeing a lot of numbers here. Again, so they've lost the ball. And then all you can see, look at the body language on every single Palace player. It's towards the ball and trying to surround the player on the ball and to nullify. And what happens here eventually, because we can't show clips, is Lucas Moura runs into trouble and they win the ball. So it's something that it's clearly it's one of his what he's trying to work on is win the ball back as soon as you can. But once we've won it, let's try keep it. Let's see if we can create something. Let's try be patient in possession.
Well, it's kind of the anti-Hodgson a little bit there, because Hodgson was probably a little bit more slow, and Vieira, like you said, is still trying to find his style. So in that sense. It's not because we were looking at a few stats, and it's not like Palace win the ball high, but that can be like a difficult stat to analyze. We've been, tearing ourselves up off air about how to use these stats correctly, because you don't have to win the ball back. You just have to force the error. It's kind of like in tennis. It doesn't matter if you get 10 winners or 10 unforced errors from the other player, you win 10 points. So if the other team lose the ball, then that's all that matters. And Palace don't win the ball high, but there seems like under Vieira, as opposed to Hodgson, they're trying to figure out how they can win the ball high, or at least put pressure high, which is, like you said, Vieira's figuring out his style. So this is the fourth screenshot here. We were just talking there about transition into defense and all that, but this is kind of their weapons, not only in defense but also in attack. Benteke has started all their matches. Did you confirm that?
Yeah, he's played the 3. So there with Benteke, it offers. Look, I'm not impressed by him. I don't think he's a major threat. He can be, but what Benteke offers is something a bit different, because again, the main thing that Vieira has introduced with this Crystal Palace side is the use of width, which we will get into shortly. But he likes to stretch the pitch completely, which means Benteke can be isolated on one, potentially in between the 2 centre backs. Yeah. And then what happens from there is that they'll play Benteke, and then they'll try and have, either it's Gallagher, maybe MacArthur, or Awu out of the 2 wingers is the one that kind of rolls in a bit more and joins the attack. But it's something that Awu does. And I think if you go to a screenshot, back to my screen, George, the tactics board, it's kind of a different picture we can give. So, because sometimes, with the screenshots, the pictures don't move, whereas this one, we can move it a little bit. So, whether it's from Kouyaté, the 2 centre backs, the young left fullback who's quite good, by the way. Let's say they find Benteke. The second it's in the air, you've got Gallagher either trying to get underneath to support the ball, and then from here potentially slot it through for Awu, who runs in, or it's as the ball's in the air again, it's Gallagher trying to get in behind potentially. Maybe Benteke can flick it on into the areas there. And again, same side for Zaha. He can hold it up. Maybe it gets to his feet. It doesn't have to be in the air all the time. And he's holding it up, trying to hold Van Dijk, delay for Zaha to make a run in. And then it's a 1-2, or he just maybe around the corner flicks it in, which we saw against Tottenham. He tried to do a few times and was unsuccessful, but close.
Well, when you talk about Benteke, I just want to have a look at him here. If you guys can see that, and I'll take this little thing off there. The use of Benteke, we did say again there, the creating of space, but we just want to have a look at his aerial duels there. Aerial duels 8-1-4. I'm not sure in the context of things how impressive that is. I mean, if we look at something like maybe Harry Kane, there you go, aerial duels 1, 4, and 2. So it's double that of Harry Kane, and they're kind of similar players. Harry Kane's a much better footballer, but there you go. But this is a caveat, is that Crystal Palace absolutely wiped the floor with Tottenham Hotspur. There's a stat that we had, Pete, about the expected goals of Tottenham in that game was 0. I think I've actually got it somewhere here if I can find it. The expected goals was what is it against Tottenham Hotspur? 0.09. The expected goals of Tottenham. Crystal Palace 2.27. Wow. And so literally Tottenham should have scored 0 goals, and Crystal Palace should have scored roughly 2.5, and they scored 3. That's rounding up. So they did wipe the floor with them, which is interesting how Tottenham capitulated. And I think Tottenham have been outperforming themselves this season. Bit of a reality check for them. But there again, you can just kind of see, Christian Benteke. It gives you an idea. Aerial duels 8. Yeah, that means they're pumping the ball to him, a few times in the game, and he's winning at least half of his duels. So that's something that Van Dijk and whoever's partnering Van Dijk are going to have to deal with.
Yeah, again, but that's it's when it's not working going wide. It's something that they can use as a plan B. You know what I mean? So it can be, or draw the attention by going central. So if we go back to the board again, it could be something that it's to draw attention. So with this, when we can play him, we predict Konate can potentially be starting, so that's why it's there. No big deal really. But this triangle here is something that maybe it brings a lot of attention. And then what may happen is you're leaving him one-on-one, which is what they want. And that's what Benteke will do, is draw attention and hopefully create spaces for the wingers to roll in. So that's why, again, he can be a bit of a potato, but what he does is he's ask for attention. You definitely need to pay a close, keep an eye on what he's doing, because it is one of those things that he can be good at.
It's a bit of a second win for Christian Benteke there, because he's had a weird career ever since Liverpool. Since he went to Crystal Palace, he was like their star striker, their record signing. If I'm not mistaken, we kind of made our money back, which is strange, but it's always on and off. But it's interesting that Vieira has just kind of gone, let's play with this guy. What is he now? 31, 30. I think he's 31 years old now, 30 to 31. So in the twilight of his career, but second win from him, definitely. But this is, again, what you're talking about. This is the next screenshot. This is that triangle you're talking about, that little holy trinity. And are those two, are they forwards or midfielders there?
So they're both midfielders. That's MacArthur and Gallagher. The ball's in the air there, so that one's a different kind of, way they've played to him. But you can see Zaha already kind of making that forward run on the wing. So whether he flicks that on towards the Zaha area or he knock it down to one of the midfielders to play Zaha in behind, it's something they do to try and how can I describe this? Kind of like to suck us in to play it that way. Do you know what I'm trying to say, George? Like it's to bring us in to play behind, or to make us, like I said, if you're going to draw any player at a Liverpool side and get him.
Do the hand things. What is it?
Oh, do the hand thing. Oh, we're close. Excuse me.
Now. You go.
Yeah, so so they try to bring in the fullbacks. We come in nice and close, and then beep, in behind that way there. So
right.
if you're gonna draw any Liverpool player out of position, who better to draw out of the position than Van Dijk?
Exactly.
Because he's the best in the world at what he does. So if you're trying to move him, there will be weaknesses.
There will be weaknesses. There will be blood, as Daniel Day-Lewis once said in his films. Actually, he didn't say it. It was just the name of the film. I digress. Next, we're going on to, so we're getting a bit of a theme here. A Gallagher forward run that could be created by the space used by Benteke. Benteke winning headers, and now a lot of width play. Lots of crosses, which is what we've seen in the stats. We're getting a theme here of Crystal Palace developing a style of play under Vieira, perhaps.
Their biggest threat clearly is Zaha. I think Zaha is an interesting one for me, because I actually would love to go and try and sign Zaha for us. I think he'd be excellent for us. I think he'd be an awesome rotation player with Mane, and I just think that he knows the league. Is a definitely qualified Premier League winger. I mean, his goal contributions could be better, but that's because he's playing at Crystal Palace. So, I mean, that's a bit of a side note. I mean, I'd love to have him, but anyway, that's another story. But yes, with Vieira, with Awu and Zaha, what you find on the wings is plenty of pace. Plenty of pace. And that's something that they want to try and isolate. They will try and get the ball wide, have their wingers as wide as possible to try and have 1v1 situations with our fullbacks, whether it's, obviously Trent and Robbo, or Trent and Tsimikas, we don't know. But what they will try and create is 1v1 situations there to try and get past our defensive line and deliver to a Benteke and late midfield runners.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just wanted to share the screen very quickly, if I can take that away and then bring up the sofa score once again. We're going to actually see pretty easily here the play areas of Crystal Palace. And it's really interesting that you brought up that specific screenshot, because you do have, I think it's Tyrell Mitchell that is on the ball. And if we go here to our screen, there he is. Is it on now, Pete? I'm assuming it is. You can see there, just on this one, I'm not sure if it can actually show, just in the middle there's that Crystal Palace one with the 3 arrows. The arrow down the left suggests that's Mitchell's side. So that's the play.
And Zaha,
And Zaha. So they're really bombing that left-hand side of the field using that width. And it's kind of, it's not only what you're suggesting that they like wing play, but they're also, the screenshot that you grabbed is a specific attack, probably one of many that went down the left. But as you can see from that, they also use color coding. So you can see like a shade of yellow, a little bit more than the right-hand side. So yeah, Crystal Palace going down that left-hand side, using Zaha cutting in and then letting Mitchell go around the outside. So that's something we did also see. There's been a little bit of conversation about Trent over the week. I think it's always unjustified, but there was a part of me that, I mean, he's allowed to have games where he's not perfect. I think he was caught out a little bit. It was kind of weird. I just felt he was, because now he's playing, that's non-stop 90 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, for Trent. He looked a little, I don't know, Pete, did you find he looked a little bit fatigued at all?
Yeah, I just think we overuse Trent during games. To be honest with you, I think we really overuse Trent during games. I think we rely on him to create something all the time. I think that if we kind of reduce the amount of times we go to Trent and stop and try to rely that, you know, whether it's a cross or something just pure magic. But I just think that, you know, with our midfield, our full strength midfield of being, you know, let's say it's Thiago, Hendo, and Fab, we should be going to them a lot more, especially Thiago. And then when it's time where, you know, oh, okay, they're clearly nothing in the midfield's happening, back to Trent. Or maybe we try Robbo's side for a change. But Robbo isn't the one that can create something. Robbo is the one who will get at the end of a ball and cross it. So, you know, it's not nothing against Robbo, but there's no creative bone in his body that's similar to Trent's anyway.
So just going back as well, I just saw this quickly as we go to the last screenshot. It's just this idea of the third man run. This is the average positions here. SofaScore do this so well. This is the average positions of Crystal Palace, and look at the play here, number 23, and that's Gallagher, Conor Gallagher, and he's the one that's furthest forward of all of those. And there's that third man run right in between Ayew and Benteke. So
and there's the training ground doing it again.
And there's the training ground. So we've got to be a bit careful of that. And I'm sure Klopp knows about that. But then there's that idea of, and that's our weakest side in my, like, especially if we're playing with Keita, that's a weakness in that area. We've lost Wijnaldum in there. So we got to be careful of that area. If it was up to me, I would say that needs to be looked at. But then again, when you focus on something too much, then something, I mean, if we're going to focus on that side, then what happens is this is Mitchell on the other side. Tyrone Mitchell, and look at his heat map. You know, that's between him and Zaha. We're kind of, you know, we commit too much to the left-hand side to protect them. Then obviously Trent can maybe, you know, be exploited. But we also saw Trent going very forward, and we saw him start to get a little bit more against Milan, a little bit more composed and becoming in midfield. Did you see that moment when he was inverted, when he got the ball?
Yeah.
There's a moment where he was just like a midfielder. And I think even the commentators just said, is he in midfield there? Like they just absolutely screamed it out. They've all been watching the training ground, it seems.
So go back to the screenshot there. No, so just go back to the arrows with the field of where they attacked a bit more of, because there's something in that as well. So, and I noticed this. So if you can just get that back up, sorry.
Yeah, it's up there now.
Okay, hold on. There it is. So if you have a look, so clearly, as we mentioned, the bigger arrows on the left, which we called, the smaller arrow on the right is because Ayew actually runs in a bit more, as we mentioned previously. But have a look at Tottenham. Which side did they hurt the most?
Yeah, the right-hand side.
Mo Salah's side. So if Tottenham hurt or went down, I should say, Crystal Palace's side a bit more, because they're so reliant on that other side. Do you see what I'm trying to say to you now? Can you get where I'm trying to get to this?
You'll see a little banner come up. So yeah, you keep chatting and you'll see my thoughts come up on screen.
So basically where I'm trying to get with this is that, wait for the banner. Wait for the banner.
There's just a little banner that's come up there.
Boom. So the Mr. Reliable, Mr. Goal scoring machine, the phenomenon, maybe Mo Salah, believe it or not, can be the key to this game, because he's never the key to any game. But it's
we've never seen that before.
Yeah, no. So maybe, you know, well, this is one of those ones there. Well, you know what, George? Let's get back to that tactics board.
Yeah.
So this is talking about the 1v1. I just set this up before. We'll talk about the areas to exploit. You know, obviously this is what they want to try and create. Just a quick picture for everybody to see. So, you know, to try and drag maybe Kanate across if the ball's coming this side, and maybe MacArthur can boom into that space there. So that was what we were talking about before the third man runs, yeah. But with what we were just saying there with the Salah stuff, right? So if they're heavily trying to target 1v1s here, Mitchell in the other screenshot, as we've shown before, making an underlap run with Zaha trying to, you know, isolate his fullback. What I would love to see more than anything in this game, because this is what it will probably look like in defense. Maybe Ward will come in a bit more. Kouyaté protects. Who knows what's going to happen here? Maybe he's into the pocket. Maybe he sits out. I'm not too sure. What I'd love to see more than anything here, George, is not Jota offside. He needs to stay onside. Mane, you do what you do because I don't think you know what you're doing these days. Yeah, but that's fine.
Score half of one.
Yeah. So what I would love to see here is whether it's Henderson, Oxlade-Chamberlain, whoever it's going to be, Milner, God knows. I'd love to see them come and do this job. And I'll tell you why. Fabinho will come in here and protect anything that's trying to maybe come off Benteke or maybe, a MacArthur run or Gallagher run. I'm not too sure. But I'd love to see this here. Can we see what we're doing with Salah?
Oh, yeah.
Cheat.
I'll get rid of,
Cheat. I know Salah did an unbelievable recovery run against AC Milan to cover Trent. But I'd love to see this midfielder, the right side of midfielder, come in here now, sacrifice a midfield position. So maybe Jota can roll in and take that midfielder position. Obviously, Thiago will come back. Mane maybe stay wide or come in here somewhere. But I'd love to see Jota roll in, because if Henderson is here and somehow will win the ball, it's to Jota, who's so creative, so smart, so intelligent. And we want to have Salah that space left here. Isolate one-on-one, because their weaknesses, in my opinion, are the two centre-backs, which maybe we can finish on if you want, how we can hurt them. This is one of the ways we can hurt them, 1,000,000%, by maybe attacking, as your statistics shown, that they're predominantly, even though they attack down their left side a lot more, they also get attacked down their left side. So what better player to attack the spaces than, Mr. Goalscorer himself? And that's something that I'd love to see. Can we have Salah cheat in these areas, stay high, Henderson and Jota potentially do the covering work for Salah, like that sacrificial work, to have Salah free into space? Because again, what better player do you want into space?
Well, I mean, we do have the last screenshot. I was trying to get it up on the phone there. It didn't work, but this is the use of the width again. This is, again, we've basically been talking about that. That's that area there that we've got to kind of be careful of. And another example of it there in the Crystal Palace Tottenham game. And I'm not sure when that red card, when does that red card actually happen? Does it happen early? Or
no, it's second half. It's the second half.
So that's them trying to play normally. And actually, if we do look at that first half, Crystal Palace Tottenham, I'm not sure if they actually have stats for the first half. Do they have? Oh, they do have first half stats. You know what, Pete? I might just share this on the page just to have a look at how they were when there was not. So that obviously that's the play in the how they were playing on the wing. But if we have a look at here at the stats, I haven't actually looked at these, so this is going to be in real time, just to have a look at how things worked. Look at that. Without the red card, 59% of the ball, 7 shots, 1 on target. This is the first half. So you're saying that the red card came in the second half? Yeah, that's true. There's the red card there. If you can see that little area there. So they were good in that first half, and you just showed there that wing play. They were dangerous even without the red card happening. Oh, sorry, you weren't even seeing that at the stream. Did you see that before? You weren't looking at it there. Oh, sorry, guys. Anyway, there you go. There's the stats of the first half. It'd be helped if I put it on the screen, but there you go. Total shots 7-1. You got corner kicks, 3 big chances, 1 big chance is missed. No red card, obviously, for Tottenham over there. So really interesting to see Crystal Palace actually really pump them even before the red card. Very interesting indeed. Well, what do we want to do now? How do we attack them? This is our weapons against them. This is how Liverpool can kind of do something against Crystal Palace as we begin to wrap up and get into predictions for our starting 11. Maybe we do give a mini prediction for our starting 11, and then how does that starting 11 or any close starting 11 win the game against Crystal Palace?
So we kind of touched up on it now by attacking down their left side, our right side being Mo Salah and potentially Trent, kind of just attack their weaknesses there. So we can add the left side to the reasons of winning. And the other way I think that we can do things in terms of the starting 11, George, I think this is what I predict. I think Konate starts against Crystal Palace. I think we've got to be super careful with Matip playing too many games in a week. Especially his record. Rumors were Van Dijk was quite annoyed to be benched, but at the end of the day, it's for a reason. Don't forget he's been out for so long.
But I like that. I like that he was annoyed. It means he was fit, and that's good because he doesn't know if he's fit or not. That's
fine.
That's good.
That's fine. Good. Yeah. I think the back four, other than that, maybe the Kanate change stays the same. I would love to see Tsimikas, but I don't think Klopp will make two changes in the back line. I think Tsimikas starts versus Norwich and potentially away to Porto. I think that's what will happen. That's what we'll see. But the midfield, the key so far to every game we've played, the midfield for me hasn't been correct. The best we've ever seen the midfield was against Leeds, and that's because of Thiago and Fabinho. And poor Harvey, man. But at the end of the day, Thiago and Fabinho together was everything that Liverpool fans have been dreaming of. Because when they're together, like the stats are there: 9 games, 8 wins, 1 draw, 0 losses. So these two have to be together. Now, I think Henderson comes in and makes it the strongest midfield we can possibly field. And I also believe that's arguably one of the best midfield threes in all of Premier League.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I think we should be playing this now in the next couple of games, George, is our October. I know I'm looking too far ahead. I know that. But our October is intense with Atletico Madrid, Manchester United, Manchester City. Like it's a full-on month. So I think these midfielders, these three in particular, have to be familiar together and have to be comfortable to know that what each other's role are. So I think this is the midfield three for me, hands down for this match. And the front three obviously speaks for itself. Now, would you agree or disagree?
I'll go on. Well, this is what I'm trying to do. We'll try and deduce here. Thiago comes off. You can see here, I've got SofaScore. It's finally open, bloody hell. So you can see here, Thiago comes off 71. Comes on 71. Keita comes off. Okay, put that to one side. Curtis Jones, who we think is the replacement for Harvey Elliott. But this is the main one here. Jordan Henderson comes off on the 84th minute. That's enough to suggest he's going to play on the weekend. So I think we see Jordan Henderson against Crystal Palace. Fabinho plays the whole game, doesn't he? Yeah. Does he even play? No. Yeah, he does. Where is he? Oh, he's not on the subs. He's on the field. There he is. Yeah, Fabinho. There. Yay. I just wanted to press his thingo. We also had Oxlade-Chamberlain come on the 84th. There's just one thing I'm thinking of. It's just basically done. I keep saying this every week. There's just a huge Oxlade-Chamberlain hole in this squad. He's the only one of our midfielders that can break through the lines. And did you say that it's their centre backs that we need to kind of test?
Yeah, so against West Ham, I'll go back to the board. Against West Ham and Chelsea, by the way. So what hurt these two, in particular Antonio, was making this run in between them there, or it was that way in between there. Now, that's something that Jota is quite good at. Jota's super intelligent at making his runs. But what I will say, George, I think you're going to get super excited here, and you probably won't be able to stand up. But this rotation that Mane and Jota have been doing in that recent game, that was really impressive. And if we can get that rotation at the right time and Mane slips in between, boom, that's where we can hurt them the most in terms of whether it's not Fabinho playing. You can get the drift of what I'm trying to say. But whether it's from Henderson, Thiago, Fabinho, Trent in this position, potentially sliding that ball in between. But I think what we need to do is somehow create confusion, sacrificial runs, and try and get in between these two centre backs. That's how I think we can hurt them the most.
Well, go back to the training go back to the tactics board there. It's just this thing that you said before. These are two things that I think this is how I reckon we can score from. Maybe 3 things. So if we bring Liverpool up, we can bring up the players. So the first thing is whoever these 2 players are, but there was just something that you said when you put Jota in this position. If Mane ever wants to leave, Mane doesn't even listen on the tactics board.
He doesn't even know what he's doing on the board.
If Jota does this thing, this is the ball I actually want to see, Pete. I mean, I'm not good with these tools, Pete. I'm not good with these tools, but this is the one, especially if Mitchell's kind of committed a little bit. And this is one of those, Speaking Greek here on the board. Is it not going to go? It doesn't
No,
matter.
because you've got it on the rubber. So you just, if you want to move the players, just here we go. Touch the LFC badge and move the players.
Okay, gotcha. Is that better now? Here we go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pete. But it's just this thing. You said that if Jota gets the ball here, I tell you what I want to see. As I want to see. Oh, that's right. I did want to get the. I wanted to get the arrow because I want to see this ball. If it is it not going to let me either? No. I want to see that ball, and then if that's happening, I do want to see Salah in behind. Is that a weird ball to ask for? Jota coming in deep, and in that, because you just said those two centre backs can kind of be a little bit wonky. There's just that little pass in there. We don't see that pass for Salah where it's like a FIFA goal. I'll call it like a FIFA goal where it's just like, what is it? Triangle, like the through pass.
The through ball, yeah.
I feel like Salah just gets the ball here too often. And then he's always, if he gets the ball there, I just feel like he's always making that run against like the centre back or anything. But if they can catch them, especially on those counters you were talking about, where you said that, Trent picks up the ball there and Henderson sacrifices himself there and they're kind of committed up this way. And if Jota can get the ball here, and you just said Salah to cheat there. If he can just play that ball where that arrow is, and then it's Salah coming in on an angle, kind of like, dare I say, Ronaldo on the other side of old, even like an Ian Robben when he used to play for Chelsea, coming in on a vertical through ball, as opposed to getting the ball wide. I think that would be good. The second thing I'm going to say is
I'd love that, George, just quietly. I if that can happen, my God, because we've been asking for that for how long?
Well, I think Mo Salah wants that. I mean, the poor guy, just get him in 1-on-1 on his left freaking foot. How many times also do we see him? And by the way, Jota, does Jota not set up Mo Salah in this area sometime last season, I feel like, where, am I now on the ball? I feel like Salah was last season in on goal in the Champions League there, was he not? And then he missed. I think it was against, who was it against was it the,
I've got
one of the worst.
Real Madrid.
Did he play Michelin last year?
It was Real Madrid, wasn't it? They're talking about the big chance that he misses to go.
Oh, yeah, but he ended up on his left foot on that side. This is where we want Salah there, where he can just roll the ball into the and he does that weird thing where he always scores from here, by the way. Or I mean, jinx, knock on wood. But he does that thing where he chooses. But he chooses whether to go this side of the goal or this side. And most of the time, do you know where he goes, Pete? He goes there, which is so weird for a left footer. He goes near post because he's like, I'm going to trick you. And that's when he kind of falters a little bit because he does it too much. But that's the one run I want to see. We could also see it on the other side for Mane, and he'll probably miss, which is fine. But at least there's a chance. But if he gets 12 of them, then he'll score one, Pete. It's okay. That's the first one. The second one is a corner. I think Vieira's just come in and Hodgson had these guys drilled, and Vieira's come in and said, can you stand 1 centimeter to the left? And now they're all fucked. So I think that this is an opportunity. And by the way, Crystal Palace are traditionally a big team, like they're going to win headers and blah, blah, blah. Van Dijk has been so good. That's how we score against, that's how Fabinho scores. It's a Van Dijk header. And Van Dijk doesn't need to score the header, by the way. He just needs to create the chaos and win the header. And then the rest, you get it in off the left butt cheek for all I care. So I reckon it's a Salah through that little space. I reckon something like a corner or, set piece, Van Dijk playing some part and a bit of a scrap. But the third one is, again, I'm just going for it. Unfortunately, I don't know if Jordan Henderson plays. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But it's just whoever it is. Maybe it's even Thiago in this position. Maybe it's Jordan Henderson if he was to come back onto the field. Maybe it's him in that position. Or it's my fave. Where is he? If we're going to bring Oxlade-Chamberlain, perhaps. Where is he? Yeah, is it finally time for this guy? But it looks like he's our substitute centre forward. I don't think it's going to be Oxlade-Chamberlain now coming to think of it. But it's just that run. I mean, use the same arrow. That third man run from a midfielder to just break through those two dumb centre backs, it seems. That could be something that could help us. I don't know.
Curtis Jones.
Oh, let's put Curtis Jones there. But you know who's also good there, Pete, which you're not going to like?
I don't think he's on the bench, by the way. Is he there? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Naby Keita's also good in that position. So you never know.
I think Naby Keita
again, the third man midfielder.
I think Naby Keita dug his grave against AC Milan.
He dug his grave.
I think his performance was enough to say you're not playing against Crystal Palace because Thiago. I think. Well, then why bench Thiago? Do you know what I mean? I think that what we're going to see I think we definitely see this midfield against Crystal Palace, and you know what? I hope we put them for 7 again, because that's with that midfield. I can't. If we make a mistake or if we stuff up this match with that midfield, you know what? Pack it up, because that midfield for me is so strong in so many different areas, other than the running in behind department. But then again, that's what Jota's for.
Yeah, the scraps. I mean, maybe Jota scores another scrap, or call it here. I think it's a scrap. There's room for a scrap. I think if Van Dijk wins that header in the box, I think it's Jota who gets the left butt cheek on it. Imagine if he scores off a butt cheek. Imagine someone scores with their butt cheek, Pete. The training ground's going to go off. You want to take Cater off that field, because we don't want to see him starting that match. And a prediction for the game, I'm going for 4-0. 4-0.
Yeah, I can smell a thumping. I can smell 3-4-0 as well. I can definitely see that.
Can you smell it?
I can predict. I predict. I'm going to call something like real crazy here. I predict we score a goal from Jota and Mane rotating. Just something to do with those two together. I believe we score a goal from those two doing something.
Jota and Mane rotating. That's a hell of a prediction. But we've got 4-0 from me. You've got something around 4-0 as well.
Yeah, 3-4-0. Yeah.
3-4-0, just some comprehensive victory from Liverpool. We've seen a few ways in which Palace can kind of hurt us. We've also seen ways in which Liverpool can use their weapons to just keep doing what they've been doing, basically, not do anything special, just do what they've been doing a little bit better. And I know Liverpool have been creating loads of chances. Of course, last week, Sadio Mane created more chances than Leeds United in total. That was the stat everyone was going around with.
Mane 10, Leeds 9.
And he scored one of those. And I thought he had a good game, like even throughout the game, like he was annoying. But I always say, I do the Alex Ferguson. I'd prefer them getting in the positions than not. I prefer them get there and miss than not. Now, as always, the training ground is a pre-recorded show. Sorry we couldn't answer you in real time. We will get into the DeLorean and go back in time and answer you after this comes out at 8 p.m. tonight, Australian time. And what is that, midday in the UK?
11 a.m.
Remember, 9, what is it? 11 a.m.
So if we're 8 p.m., they're 11 a.m.
So please be sure, like and subscribe on the Red Sea podcast. We are at Red Sea Down Under on the Twitter, so have a chat to us. I think the Red Fix would have been coming out, or would have come out at this stage, Pete. Is that right? It's already come out.
Yeah, it's out live last night, actually. Yeah, it was a good show. It was a good show. So once our listeners get used to another show from us, I'm sure they'll be enjoying our midweek fix.
Yeah, absolutely. And always keep up to date with us here on the YouTube. Please like and subscribe. If you like, it pushes the videos up. So that means that the algorithm pushes us towards the top of the YouTube hierarchy. And there's also some shows from the lads in the UK. What are we looking at from them? The tier list?
That's coming up. But Statman Stubbs did his show last night, or the Rival's Point of View. He's so brave, by the way, because it was by himself, I believe, with 3 Crystal Palace fans. I'm thinking to myself, I said it to him. Well, he was with us last night, and I said to him, okay, you're a better person than I am, because I could not be on a show with other fans. I just won't. I just can't deal with it. I'm sorry. I could barely deal with our own fans at the moment. So let alone some other people's fans. But there's also the Fab Four coming up to I believe is a Friday night show, I'm pretty sure, but it's the time difference is killing me. Yeah. But,
so keep a listen out for the UK lads bringing out a bunch of shows over the next week or so, but also most importantly the pre-Crystal Palace chat. So anyway, that's been us here at the training ground. Hopefully some of this stuff comes true, as it usually does from the training ground, Pete. We're expecting no pressure. We're expecting hopefully a Liverpool victory. But as for now, this has been the training ground. I've been George. That's been Pete. We'll see you guys later. Bye.